We have some insane changes coming to Wrath of the Lich King Classic, just announced by Blizzard in a blue post. Number one, heroic and normal versions of raids will share a lockout in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, but not the 10 and 25 man versions of the raid. Now, Blizzard didn't want players to feel like they had to run all versions of, the raids, right? This is mainly due to Trial of the Crusader, where everyone really did feel like they needed to run it 4 times because the gear was such a step up from Ulduar gear that you just wanted to, replace all your Ulduar gear as fast as possible. Had amazing trinkets, I might add. And really the goal for Blizzard in this change is to make players run the 25-man versions with their guild and then pug the 10-man, since your 25-man core raid might not be able to easily break into 3 10-mans. So you pug and then you meet some new people, maybe they join your guild, add them to the roster. That's sort of the idea Blizzard had behind this. Now my question to you is, would you pug it? Now, I'm thinking people will probably pug it regardless of the change, and that's just my opinion. I think it's going to get pugged either way. But along with this change is one of the craziest changes I have ever seen from Blizzard. Any trinkets with both the heroic and normal versions, such as Death's Verdict, will share a unique equip category. So you cannot have both versions of the same trinket equipped at the same time. Wow, huge change, huge change. Now this really hurts humans in PvP the most because they don't use a PvP trinket. Instead, they equip 2 mega overpowered trinkets from PvE, so now you can't stack those Death's Verdicts. Or maybe you wanted to have 2 Solace of the Fallen, that ridiculous MP5 trinket, right? Or any of the other mega OP trinkets in Wrath of the Lich King. We'll mainly feel this, in my opinion, in the later phases of the game with Trial of the Crusader, Icecrown Citadel, or even Ruby Sanctum, introducing these incredibly powerful trinkets. That's change number 1. Change number 2 that Blizzard announced just recently was that the race and faction change as a paid service will be available in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. This is awesome. You want to play with your friends. You want to, chase the flavor of the month, whatever. You want to, it's interesting. You could probably boost a character and then switch to Blood Elf or Draenei and be like, oh yeah, I leveled this character, throw off your communal gear, just be like, oh yeah, no, because before you can't boost the Draenei or the Blood Elf, right? But most likely people are going to do this to chase those racial abilities, right? Or, if you're a horde and you're a serious PvPer, you're probably going to go switch to human and continue your PvP. Now, Blizzard did say that it will not be available at launch. It will be offered as a paid service in a future patch, so not phase 1, I guess. Blizzard's reasoning behind making this change is because they feared players would be chasing the flavor of the month, right? Definitely, there will be people who do that, right? People planned to, play human, but now they're kind of getting screwed because now anyone can just switch to human for PvP primarily. But they believe that allowing players to play with their friends is more important than stopping those people from sort of getting the edge by paying for this service, right? And they consider this a similar trade-off when transferring realms, which is already available, right? You're getting people who just chase the most populated realm, or they're just trying to play with their friends, right? And so they decided to enable faction race change because it's a similar trade-off that's already implemented. Now, guys, not to derail this topic, but I just realized we queue for Battlegrounds, right? We lose that social interaction of forming a group. I know. And we get teleported instantly to the battleground. I know. We're losing so much here. Loss of immersion. But since the feature is already in the game for Battlegrounds, you see where I'm going with this? Well, what if we made the same thing for dungeons? We could call it Dungeon Finder. We could let players queue for, a dungeon, and then it teleports them there, puts the group. Anyways, this leads to announcement number 3. Activision has no plans to add the random Dungeon Finder or just the Dungeon Finder to the game, and they will continue to work on their bulletin board style looking for group tool. And they go on to say how they're hopeful there will be more groups because of the anti-boosting change, and hopefully this will facilitate long-term friendships in World of Warcraft. Every time I hear that, I think Am I just an odd one out? But I don't get that. I send someone a Whisper invite, and then I either just get instantly invited, or they don't say anything. Either way, they're not whispering me back, right? Like, I don't know. And then the group disbands, we go on our way. I don't know. Usually the people that I meet, that I hang out with afterwards, are like from a guild, right? That's where I feel like you meet people, in the guild. But anyways, so for some, this is disappointing news, and for some, they're happy with the change, and I'm happy for you that you're happy. But speaking of disappointing news, let's move on to number 4, which is that account-wide achievements are not going to be in the game. Instead of account-wide achievements, we're going to be getting achievements per character. And this is the way it was back in original Wrath of the Lich King. So sorry, Altaholics. I'm also an Altaholic. I have freaking 370s. I'm proud / embarrassed of that. But the reasoning is a little shaky. I'm not super behind Blizzard's reasoning here. Maybe you guys can correct me here. It says here they need to focus their efforts on implementing faction and race change. They wanted to preserve our achievements, right, when re-rolling. That's what their goal was, right? Like, they wanted to preserve it by giving us faction race change. But since we have race and faction change, we don't need to re-roll anymore. So I was a little confused by that. Basically, they're saying because faction and race changes in the game, we don't need account-wide achievements. But faction and race change doesn't mean we don't want to not make extra characters, right? So I thought that the reasoning was kind of silly. Didn't make sense that because of faction and race change, they're not going to do the account-wide achievements. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's what the blue post said. All right, and the last major change that Blizzard is implementing is that awards and achievements for the 2v2 bracket, the 2v2 arena bracket, will be preserved. If you remember back in original Wrath of the Lich King, that was not the case because 2v2 was imba. It was super imbalanced. You could carry people. Certain classes and specs were so broken. I mean, certain teams literally could just get certain gladiator, easy gladiator, guaranteed gladiator, because they were just broken in 2v2. There's just some comps that are like that. So they removed it, right? And this kind of pushed people more towards threes being really competitive, honestly. But if you want easy gladiator, you can get it in Wrath Classic with a really overpowered 2v2 team.